How's it going, everyone? Hope everyone had a great weekend. Um, we have chapter 10 and 11 here
Success
of
means
Fractured
redeployment.
Futures.
Failure means
Anyways,
elimination.
let's get into it with another Kills of the Week.
Chapter 10, The Memory of Knives. K.O. Varen woke up screaming. The scream tore out of him before his eyes opened, before the world reassembled itself into walls and light, and the stale smell of recycled air. His heart slammed against his ribs. Every muscle locked tight as if expecting impact. He tasted blood. It took several seconds for him to realize he'd bitten his tongue. 17th loop, he thought dimly. That knowledge was not new. It never was. It lived in him the way instinct lived in animals. Older than language, deeper than thought. He rolled onto his side, gasping, sweat soaking the sheets of a room he'd rented under a name he'd already forgotten. The dream lingered. A woman's face. Older, tired, eyes like shattered glass. His mother. Kale pressed the heel of his hand into his forehead and laughed. A thin sound that scraped his throat raw. "She always kills me," he whispered to the empty room. Sometimes it was quick. A knife, a bullet, a poison drink. Sometimes it was careful. An accident, a collapsing structure, a misaligned jump. Once, she'd hugged him as he died. That one had taken him centuries to forgive. He sat up, swinging his legs over the side of the bed. His body bore the marks of memory rather than injury. Phantom pains layered over scarless skin. He flexed his fingers, watching them tremble. 17. That was new. Until now. Every loop had begun the same way. A clean reset, the world snapping back into familiar grooves. He woke knowing exactly what would happen next. Who would betray him? Where the authority would strike. How she would try to erase him. This time, Kale frowned. This time, something felt loose. The rhythm of time around him stuttered like a skipping record. The hum beneath reality, the thing only he seemed to hear, wavered. He stood, moving to the cracked mirror above the sink. The man staring back at him looked younger than he felt. Early 20s. Dark hair falling into sharp eyes that had watched civilizations rise and burn. Something's wrong, he told his reflection. The reflection did not disagree. Kale reached beneath the sink, fingers brushing a hidden latch. A small device slid into his palm, a compact chrono anchor of his own design. Far cruder than the authorities, but more personal. He'd built it across loops, refining it with knowledge stolen from his own depths. He activated it. Time whispered back. Fragments flooded his mind. Memories of futures that had not yet happened in this iteration. The authority raid on Sector 12. The collapse of the Archivist Ring. Mara Lorne, standing over his body, eyes hollow, but threaded through them was something new. A blur. A man with kind eyes and oil-stained hands. Kale sucked his sharp breath. "Who are you?" he whispered. He staggered back, bracing himself against the sink. The device buzzed, struggling to stabilize. This was wrong. He remembered everything. He always did. That was the rule. His curse. His advantage. But this was uncertainty. Fear curled in his gut, unfamiliar and unwelcome. He grabbed his coat and left the room, moving through the city with practiced ease. Neon lights flickered overhead, casting fractured reflections across wet pavement. People brushed past him, unaware that they were walking through a battlefield that spanned centuries. Kale watched them with distant detachment. He'd once cared about people. That was before she taught him that attachment was a weakness exploited by time itself. He ducked into an alley and activated the anchor again, pushing harder this time. Pain flared behind his eyes as he forced the memories forward. There, a divergence. Mara Lauren talking, not hunting. Sitting in a shop filled with clocks. With him. No, not him. Someone else. Kale doubled over, nausea twisting his stomach. "She didn't kill me," he whispered, stunned. In the vision, she spoke to the man gently. Honestly, the way she never spoke to Kale after Loop 3. The anchor sparked violently. Kale shut it down with a curse, gasping. A laugh bubbled up in his chest. Sharp, incredulous. "She's trying something new," he said. Rage followed close behind. 16 times, she decided his life was a mistake that needed correcting. 16 times, she'd proven she would choose the timeline over her son. And now she wanted absolution? Cale straightened slowly, eyes hardening. "No," he said softly. "You don't get to change the rules." He stepped out of the alley and into the flow of the city, mind racing. If Mara wasn't hunting him yet, that meant she was vulnerable, unprepared, and if there was a man helping her, someone capable of touching the knot in time. Cale smiled, cold and precise. "Let's see what breaks first," he murmured. "You or the future." Far away, a clock stuttered. The 17th loop shuddered and held. Chapter 11, The Shape of a Different Choice. The first rule of breaking time, Soren said, was admitting that time would fight back. Mara felt that resistance now, like pressure behind her eyes, as she stood in the center of Soren's workshop. The clocks on the walls ticked out of sync, some speeding up, others lagging behind, as if reality itself were unsure which rhythm to follow. "This is the part where things usually explode," Soren muttered, adjusting a calibration dial. "Or fold inward, or erase us retroactively." "Comforting," Mara replied. He glanced at her, lips twitching. "I cope with humor." They had spent 3 days preparing. 3 days that already felt stolen from the universe. Soren had locked the shop, rerouted its temporal footprint, and anchored it just slightly outside standard causality. Not enough to vanish, but enough to blur. Mara had told him everything. Every loop, every death, every time she looked into a child's eyes and decided the future mattered more than mercy. Soren hadn't interrupted once. When she finished, he'd simply said, "Then we stop treating Cale like an endpoint." "What do we treat him like?" she'd asked. "A beginning." Now, standing beside a device that hummed with barely contained energy, Mara wasn't sure whether she felt hope or terror. "Walk me through it again," she said. Soren tapped the console. "We're not trying to overwrite the loop. That would snap it back harder. Instead, we introduce a sustained deviation. Small, human, persistent. You mean me staying alive?" "That's step one," he said. "You dying reinforces his belief that time only understands violence." Mara swallowed. "He's already watching us." Soren nodded. "I know." That had been the second shock. The sensors Soren installed weren't designed to detect people, only distortions. And 2 nights ago, the readings had spiked sharply, briefly forming a pattern that made Soren pale. Temporal recursion, he'd whispered. Localized. Focus. "Cale, he remembers," Mara said quietly. "Everything." "And now he's afraid," Soren replied, "which makes him dangerous." The device between them pulsed. Mara stepped closer. "This will let us what?" "Hide." "Not hide," Soren corrected. "Speak." She stared at him. "To Cale?" "To the loop itself," he said. "We send a signal backward. Not information, not memories. An emotional constant." Mara blinked. "You can do that?" Soren shrugged. "I can try." The idea was terrifying in its simplicity. Emotions, unquantifiable, persistent, sticky. If memories could be erased, feelings often couldn't. The archive recorded deaths and divergences, but not love, not guilt, not regret. "If we seed the loop with something Cale can feel," Soren continued, "something that contradicts his expectations, it might destabilize his certainty." Mara's hands trembled. "He expects me to kill him." "Yes." She closed her eyes. "Then we give him something else." They activated the device. The workshop lights dimmed, then flared as the clocks froze mid-tick. The air grew heavy, thick with pressure that made Mara's ears ring. Soren shouted over the rising hum. "Focus on the moment you chose differently." Mara gasped, memories crashing into her. 16 versions of herself. 16 blades raised. 16 moments of resolve hardening into cruelty. She pushed past them. She found something else. A memory buried deep. Loop 2, maybe 3. A moment she tried not to remember. Cale at 8 years old, asleep on the couch, clutching a book to his chest, trusting her utterly. "I'm sorry," Mara whispered. The device flared. Time buckled. Across the city, Cale Varen froze mid-step. The world tilted, not enough to break, but enough to shift. The hum beneath reality deepened, resonating through his bones. And then, something warm, something he did not recognize at first. Grief, not his own. It hit him like a blow, stealing his breath. He staggered, clutching his chest as emotion flooded him. Raw, aching, impossible. Regret. Cale sank to his knees in the street, ignoring the shouts around him. "No," he whispered. "No, that's not." But he knew. He knew that feeling. It was hers. Back in the workshop, Mara collapsed to the floor as the device powered down. Smoke curling from its housing. Soren dropped beside her, breathing hard. "Did it work?" she gasped. Soren checked the readings, eyes wide. "He felt it," he said. "Whatever you sent, he felt it." Mara pressed her hands to her face, tears slipping through her fingers. "For the first time," she whispered, "I didn't hurt him." Soren looked at her gently, and for the first time, he doesn't know what to do with that. Far away, Cale Varen stared at his shaking hands. The future, his weapon, his shield, had just betrayed him, and somewhere in the fractures of time, the 17th loop began to bend.
Alrighty, let me know what you think of these chapters and what you think of the overall story so far. And as always, don't let things weigh you down.